So as you guys might have heard, The Flash just aired the first episode for its 5th season yesterday, and honestly, I thought it was great. Yeah, season 4 started declining a little bit towards the end there, weirdly choosing to swap out the cool villain for some random body of the week for most of the season, but season 5 started off pretty strong, so hopefully the writers can keep that momentum going in future episodes. Now, even though there's a lot of great stuff in this episode, like good acting, actual funny jokes, a consistent tone that kind of reminded me of the first season / the beginning of the third one of the main things that put the season 5 premiere over the top for me was all the Easter eggs and references the writers packed into it. I mean, it's a comic book adaptation, we already expected at least some of those things, but I feel like it's pretty clear that the writers took advantage of Nora being a time traveler and a fan of her father's superhero activities and have a little bit of fun with what all they decided to throw references at. Of course, the episode starts off with our usual bit of narration, as episodes of The Flash tend to do, but this time, rather than focusing on Barry running around the city talking about how he's the fastest man alive or whatever, this time we got to hear some quick backstory from Nora. Yeah, the CGI's looking pretty rough, but whatever, I thought it was kind of fun. And like I said earlier, Nora, being the future Flash fangirl she is, also brought a ton of Easter eggs and references with her in her trip to the present. For starters, she keeps using a bunch of future lingo, including the word shui, when talking about something being cool. This is something all the 90s kids watching my videos should remember hearing all the time in the animated series Batman Beyond.
So now I'm in like Shui City with my mom. She's even taking me out to celebrate.
That's nice.
Which of course is especially interesting now that we know that this year's crossover is going to be exploring Gotham City with the introduction of Batwoman. We also see Nora giving Barry his signature Flash ring, something fans have been looking forward to seeing since the show first aired in 2014, while also name dropping the Flash Museum a few times, along with its curator Dexter Miles. Speaking of, we actually already saw Miles back in the season 1 episode going rogue, as the owner of the Central City Museum, so I'm assuming we'll see the character pop back up at some point in the show's future. Nora also name drops a ton of other characters, including Ryan Choi, who later becomes the Atom, Lightning Lad, King Shark, and Grodd. We actually get a couple references to the giant shark man from Nora, like when she's getting fitted with the tachyon device from the first crossover between Supergirl and the Flash, and she straight up quotes King Shark's first appearance in the season 2 episode The Fury of Firestorm. She also references the fight between Barry and King Shark in the episode King Shark when Barry wanders in wearing the season 2 suit. Oh yeah, and she also references the Supergirl crossover too. Now the really cool thing about the King Shark and Grodd name drops was that Nora mentioned them fighting at one point. This is something we heard about a while back and will actually happen later this season, so that'll be pretty cool. Of course, Nora isn't the only one tossing around references like hotcakes. Barry also gave us a few interesting references, like at the beginning of the episode when he compared Nora's meddling with time to both A Sound of Thunder and Back to the Future. Iris, of course, continues her apparently new trend of never having seen anything popular by mistakenly attributing the latter reference to Terminator 2. We also see Barry giving Nora the same speech the disguised Eobard Thawne gave to him in the season 1 episode Tricksters while trying to get her to help phase an airplane. We also get some cuts to that scene for everybody in the audience who couldn't remember that was actually a thing. Of course, 2 of the members of the West family also got the chance to reference a few things. Iris, for example, got to list 3 references, all in the same scene. She mentioned the time Barry brought Captain Cold back to the present in the season 3 episode Infantino Street. She also mentioned how Barry ran to the future, something you might remember happening in the episode The Once and Future Flash, as well as how he also ran to the past to train with Eobard Thawne back in the season 2 episode Flashback. And finally, this one's more of a general reference, but she also mentions that Barry spent a bunch of time trying to change the timeline so she wouldn't die from an attack by Savitar, something we saw pretty much happening all throughout season 3. And then there's Wally. Good old Wally. Isn't it great to see him again? I can't wait to hear what kind of stuff he gets to talk about. Who knows, maybe the writers will finally give us a little bit of payoff for that Starro Easter egg last season. Oh, no. Never mind. All we get is a quick reference to the Legends episode Amazing Grace. And then he's gone again. Fantastic. Thankfully, Ralph, of all people, actually gets the chance to toss out a few great references, and also humorously offered solutions to a few of the quote-unquote problems that have been confusing / irritating people who always claim they'll stop watching the show, but never wind up doing so. There's that part when Ralph wonders out loud why Eddie Thawne didn't just go get a vasectomy instead of shooting himself at the end of season 1. He interrupted a bunch of Nora talk while trying to explain the concept of the multiverse with a bunch of circles, like Barry and Dr. Stein did in season 1 of Supergirl and season 2 of The Flash, respectively, and even casually mentioned the possibility of a timeline where he died in the particle accelerator explosion, a reference to what happened to him in the show's first timeline. I actually did a video on it, feel free to check that out. The best Easter egg from Ralph, though, comes at the end of the episode. See, while Team Flash around for a while, just sort of messing around with planes and whatever. Ralph was out and about discovering that Caitlin's father's death certificate is actually fake, and that the guy that signed it is named Cameron McKent. If you're a DC fan, you might remember Cameron being the second Icicle in the comics, who first appeared in 1987's Infinity Inc. number 34. If you haven't figured it out yet, the show's basically slapping us in the face with the fact that Caitlin's dad is going to turn out to be the Arrowverse version of Icicle. It also turns out that Cameron doesn't actually exist though, so I'm assuming that Caitlin's father faked his death and made up that name for the paperwork, kind of like how the Joker signed an evidence bag for his own calling card at the end of Batman Begins. But probably the most interesting Easter egg in the entire episode is that future newspaper article Nora brought with her. Remember how cool and mysterious the future article Eobard brought with him was? Well, get ready to have your mind blown, because this new one is chock full of awesome stuff. For starters, the article talks about how Barry still hasn't come back after the crisis 25 years before the article was published, how this works when the article is published in 2049, and a future version of Barry was able to send Rip Hunter a message in the year 2056, I have no idea. Maybe Barry got stuck in the future or something? But if that's true, then when does he go back in time to save himself and his mom from the Reverse Flash?
See, that's the thing about time travel, Barry. The more you do it, the less the rules apply to you.
Anyways, moving on. Much like how the old newspaper name-dropped a few characters in the Arrowverse that either hadn't changed their names yet or hadn't shown up yet, the new future newspaper also mentions a few future events, like mentioning that Green Arrow, Batwoman, Elongated Man, Atom, and Supergirl were all possibly present during the crisis. I guess Flashpoint erased Hawkgirl from that fight, and I guess mentioning Atom's new status as a legend. Even the bit about shadow demons is a cool reference, since the Anti-Monitor used them as his personal army during the original Crisis story. But the coolest thing about the entire article is the hauntingly cryptic quote from none other than Roger Hayden, otherwise known as the Psycho Pirate. He's kind of a big deal in the original Crisis, to put it very simply and very plainly, and considering how he's quoted in this future article as saying, "Worlds lived, worlds died, nothing will ever be the same." It seems like the Arrowverse version of the character is going to be similar to his comic book counterpart. Hell, they're even saying the same thing after everything's all said and done. And that's it. That's every Easter egg and reference I could find in this episode of The Flash. Me personally, I'm really excited to see if the show explores any of these references at all. Like maybe we'll get to see the formation of the Flash Museum after the crossover, or maybe we'll see Team Flash run into Ryan Choi and kind of point him in the direction of Ray Palmer or something like that. But I guess we'll see what happens over the rest of the season. But anyways guys, what was your favorite Easter egg and or reference in this episode? Feel free to let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, I will see you all next time. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, then go ahead and click that like button, and if you're new, maybe consider clicking that subscribe button too. I've also got links to my Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and Patreon in the description. You should probably check those out too. And if you want to see more of my content, then you can click the link to my last video. It's right there in the middle of your screen. Alright, and I will see you all next time.